Hello, hello. That's not good. It's a Berylio. Hey, Queen. How are you? Where you were doing studies of portraits, were you looking at other malformations? Did you start drawing? Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't always use those three sources. Right now, I'm thinking of that Harry Potter character. You know, the one that looks like a rat. Um, yeah, what I like to look up is show you. And it's like a plastic surgery. Instagrams, like plastic surgeons. Um, just an example, right? But I'll show you why. Just a second. Hmm. Sorry, I have to type with one hand. I'm really bad at it. Look. If you type in plastic surgery, for example, you get all these basically people who thought there was something wrong with their face, right? But it actually gives you like really interesting faces. you know, like I don't know if you can see this, but this character would fit right into my world. I mean both, and I usually really like the lighting too, because it's kind of just flat descriptive. I mean, and it gives you like two versions of a character. It's often kind of sad. There's nothing wrong with this dude. He just needs to put his chin forward. But yeah, whatever they want. But yeah, I love this type of references. This the before and after, the the like the standard the expressions they make. I mean, it's just kind of amazing. Yeah, exactly. What the fuck is this shit? That can't be real. Plastic. Holy shit, is that real? Sorry, I'll put it on a different screen. Oh my god. She got swollen. Anyway, in other news, I have a I made a threadless shop. If you want to have any of these designs on a T-shirt, I made this little. It's on the back. It's got like a cool snake skull crest here. I ordered them for myself to wear on the stream. Yeah, that's what gave me the idea of making some myself, but I don't think a lot of people buy this kind of shirt. I don't know. Hope you guys prove me wrong. Yeah, what bothered me about that is that when I reached out, she was like, "If you can prove that this is your work, I will take it down." And that just made me really pissed off, you know. That's why I put it on my Instagram. Like I had to do like from what I've seen, people buy this kind of stuff in like bundles. Oh, I see. Yeah, well, it didn't take much time to create. You know, just turning some creating some PNGs, and then that's what it is. I think the problem is gonna be for me that it's threadless, so I ordered some shirts and probably it's gonna cost me a lot in tariffs. You know, like tariffs is a big thing these days. So I'm afraid it's gonna cost me more than the $100 I paid for it. Because I ordered like a couple of them. Yeah, the thing is, like, I could find this person on. There was a woman from Brazil. I could find this person on Facebook, and then in the email, she's like pretending to be a company, you know, and that she doesn't know how this kind of stuff got on the got on our site, you know, like you're the person that copy pasted my images, you know, like you know that you put them on your site, and now you're gonna be like, oh, I'll ask my assistant to I'll investigate what's going on with this with your images. Come on, I think I'm stupid. I just threatened with like legal action, and she took it down basically. My go-to is to say that I work together with a debt collection agency that operates in all countries, across borders, across the ocean. my channel. Have you guys noticed I'm streaming in 4K? How is the speed, by the way? So this is the second redraw, and I'm gonna redraw it again. And this will be like the final pass with all the final lines and stuff. Shower curtains, very interesting. So I have a couple of ways to approach my final stuff. One is where I know very specifically what it's going to be. You know, if I'm very happy with like the line work, and it doesn't need a lot of attention. And the other one is just kind of more searching. Like what I'm doing here is kind of, you know, go for like more random strokes just to see like what will happen to the character. Quick questions: when you draw, how do you alternate between thinking about 2D shapes and 3D form? Good question. Let's see. I mean, a lot of it, of course, is it's like muscle memory, right? But like for example, now I'm thinking about the silhouette, and then after that, I think like it's the interpretation of your lines in like transforming it into 3D with shading, so it needs to make sense. So I'll start out with being as graphical as I can like this, and then when I start to render it, it still needs to I'll make adjustments, right? So it makes sense in 3D. But yeah, so oftentimes the 2D shapes will tell you what to do with the shading as well, right? So when you have a plane like this points towards the light, as it changing here, it's going darker, right? So you gotta go darker. So right here, right now I have this triangular shape, right? I have to figure out a way to solve that so it makes sense, right? So what I do is I'm gonna make the cloth turn like really fast so I can have that. Right, so here there would be some shadow, some overhang. Just want you to explain. You said your brush on Procreate. No, it's just a little bit different, but it's still like I've seen artists use it really well. In Procreate as well. So I'll show you for an example. Oh, not logged in. Here, this is like an example of an artist using my brush in Procreate. He swears by my brush, so like I don't know how he uses it. I mean, you can probably, but he uses it without any adjustments, just straight out the box, basically. He's called this Theodore the Salted Brown Bear on Weibo. Here he's explaining, and this is the difference, that in Procreate, that kind of texture that it gives is kind of, it feels like it repeats a lot more than, what's happening in Photoshop. See, it doesn't do that. It's more like a random thing, or it's more like, the pressure. It's better with the pressure for me, but yeah, not for this person. Right, so all this stuff that he is doing that with my brush basically, but I guess he's using it pretty small. But what he told me is that he likes that you can both paint with it. You can paint with it and you can draw with it, and then you have some kind of like hybrid feeling to everything. But yeah, you here you can, I don't know, here you can see he starts out pretty light, and then I guess he builds contrast. It's like a combination painting, drawing, basically. Yeah, it's possible. But I don't see that's how he paints with it too. Yeah, it's really cool. Ryan Fox. It's funny because I've done like a portrait course, and yeah, I now see people use my technique, and it's actually funny because they'll eventually just be better than me at doing portraits with my own technique. Especially because I kind of stopped doing them. Hey, Dwar. Let me make some lights for a second. Hey, Runa. Who are you? What kind of stuff did you make? Samurai character. Man, my memory. What's going on? Samurai character. Oh yeah, I think I know now. The course I have is kind of like it's a like a world building exercise. Uh, so what you know in the course, what you do is the assignment is that you have to picture yourself as some kind of explorer, and then basically create like these sketchbook pages like I'm doing now, but then according to like a loose theme. For example, the example I always give is that like imagine that you're like an explorer, you're coming off a ship, and you arrive at some kind of pirate harbor, and then basically you describe what you see, kind of like a James Gurney's um, Dinotopia, right? then a little bit more sketchy. Less like giant, incredible paintings, more sketch style. Oh yeah, yeah, I remember Ryan Becara. I should probably reopen those mentorship spots. figure out how cloaks work. More like this, I guess. I do have to say the course is very self-study. So if you don't put in any work, then it's not gonna help you. Just letting you know. I'm definitely thinking about making like a more, just like a tutorial kind of downloadable thing. Either on, yeah, I'm thinking it's gonna be just about this kind of pencil rendering, like a more technical course. Well, it should probably be about everything. The problem with making courses is that, you know, it's really hard to like think of the scope of it. I feel like, where do you start, where do you end? always like, oh, if I if I'm going to talk about this, then I have to explain that, and then I have to explain that, and then it's always like it always feels like you gotta do like the best course from the ground up with all the info, like all the drawing info of the world. 'Cause, yeah, you don't really want to disappoint people either. That's what's kind of holding me back at the moment. Camilo. Barilio, yeah, I tried to give. I think I try to think of the anatomy first, and then the clothing sort of follows the anatomy. It's mostly thinking about some kind of archetype. You know, what is your character? What is he going to be doing? I'm basing myself, all the decisions I'm basing myself on. You know, the fact that, like, this guy, for example, some kind of rat-like, almost like a creature. You know, if you're designing some kind of creature, you gotta. What I usually think about is, you know, like evolution. It's like if it's a creature, you know, a creature that's bound by the concept of survival of the fittest. You know, no modern medicine or whatever that will help with survival. Then. Yeah, you're thinking of, you know, what is his role in this environment? Is he like a hunter? Is he a prey? And then you try to add these, you know, biological facts to the thing. For example, a hunter will have, you know, the eyes in front, facing forward. A prey will have, like, needs more peripheral vision and stuff. This kind of stuff, you know. Keep having an issue of using the same body type. Yeah, it's what I just said, you know, like, think of sometimes you try to do it and then you're still way off, like something that looks special. Like, oh, I'm gonna do some kind of thing that I've never done before, and then it just kind of the same thing you always do, except like 10% different. So I think it helps to just go crazy in the thumbnailing phase. Usually when you finish something, it's gonna be less, less energy than the first sketch. So you gotta avoid that by exaggerating your sketch very hard. Well, I think you can overcome the mileage problem by being very specific about what you want to draw and then really trying to get there. For example, you can, if you really say to yourself, I'm gonna draw this kind of thing, and I think, yeah, characters, it's really starts with the idea, right? The idea of your character is actually the most important part. Like what you're going to draw. If that part is very original and unique and well thought out, then you're already very far. Uh, like then you have a head start on everybody else. Then it's just the execution. But yeah, good visual ideas sometimes also just come with skill. fade is all sorts of crooked. That's a little bit better. Hey Berlio, do you set yourself task every day on what to draw? Uh, Not really specific like that. I just start drawing. My my problem is sometimes just starting. Mm, I'm taking some rough. No, that's okay. I'd rather have a lot of questions than nobody talking actually. been stuck with my art progress and designing. Maybe feel free if you want, like post some of your work or something. It's a lot easier to just take a look and then comment like that. So this character is inspired by it's like the Guillermo del Toro. He's got like this horror thing on Netflix, I think, with rats and like these grave robbers and stuff. That's what I was thinking about. So it's basically just a grave robber, right? How do you how do I know what to draw? uh, I mean, for me, it's not that. There's just so much stuff, you know. The problem is kind of like deciding from all those possibilities where what I'm going to do today. But if you look at this page here, it's kind of got a similar a theme going on, you know, like. So I was going like, I'm gonna do some Gravedigger or something, and then have all the stuff like uh, be about that. The last couple of weeks I've been kind of slowly developing. I'm kind of pushing my sketches toward one particular world. sort of like a medieval, uh, yeah, like Flanders or so it's kind of like, yeah, this like folkloristic medieval world that yeah, that we see in some like Belgian medieval painters. What I'm trying to mimic. Think like The Witcher, but even cooler. No, The Witcher, but like a lot less Romanian. Do you follow or? This is kind of the world, you know. This is inspired by this Belgian painter, uh, Peter Bruegel. What I like about this painting is that this guy was painting this stuff, you know, in the Middle Ages. So it's almost like photographs into like, you know, he's one of the few artists from the Middle Ages who didn't paint religious stuff, you know. Okay, he did, you know, this is religious, but, you know, so when he paints something and it's basically just what it was like, and that's what I think is insane, you know, these wooden, you know, basically just wooden windmills, like the windmills that are left in Belgium, you know, they're usually like made of stone, like these type of windmills, they're nowhere to be found anymore, you know, like that's kind of crazy. Just this kind of stuff, you know, the way they're like sleeping and just the fact that they're basically the hats and stuff, you know, you don't see that in any medieval you know, medieval movies. Like it's basically just like a Japanese hat that they wore, but that kind of stuff you don't, you know, often see anywhere, right? And it's like these little ball heads and then the haircuts, you know, the jock straps. I wonder what that's about. They all got like this like string around their private parts in his painting. So it means it must have been there. I especially like this painting, the blind leading the blind. And you can just see what they actually wore. So on Discord, Barilio. Oh shit, I think I have to. Oh, way too late for something. Shit. Yeah, I gotta go. Anyway, my painting is done. All right, let's see. Uh, line weight wise, you can do a lot with these sketches to make them better. Right, you need to think a little bit more in terms of like bigger shapes and smaller shapes. Right, so in this one, for example, right, you're gonna wanna like emphasize this shape, and maybe in the line work itself you can play a little bit with you know, like little cast shadows, or you know, deeper shadows, for example, right? So you know, if you do this and then you need a couple more like primary shapes in the design, in the line work, right? So for example, you can make the outlines a little bit stronger, right? So which one of these shapes is like important, right? And it already needs to be in the line work, right? And that's gonna make the design a lot more clear, right? So here you have these lines, you know, is this the one that's, you know, the ones that's like the main shape, right? And then the other one is the detail, right? So that's what you gotta figure out with these sketches, right? So is this, you can vary the line work, right, inside of the whole thing, right? So instead of, you know, putting these lines like that, for example, right, you have this shape, you have that shape, right? So instead of just doing something like this, you can think, you know, like, this is wrapping around the form, so first the lines are closer together and then they, you know, then they go apart, right? And that's all part of the design, right? But so yeah, think of which lines you want to emphasize, which are the main shapes, and what are the details, right? Here everything is equally important, right? So if you put this, you put some value there, right? It's hard to see which shape is overlapping what shape and what shape is like, you know, what is texture and what is actual form, right? So this could be, you know, this could be a pattern, or it could be engraved, right? So that's all, this stuff is not clear, right? So what's this? You know, is it going in? How is it overlapping, right? All of this stuff needs to be shown. Just so with a little bit more work in the lines, you can solve a lot of things with the design just by using line weight, right? The job is for you to make clear how stuff is wrapping, you know, what's like overlapping, what's inside, you know, is it coming out of the form, is it going inside? All this kind of stuff is quite, you know, is quite important. Same thing, right? So in the thumbnail, you kind of have, you know, big, medium, small shapes, but then in the line work, you kind of lose that. You're kind of losing the perspective. You know, everything here needs to be more like rounded, right? Like in here, right? You need to feel that this shape is on top. Right now you kind of made everything flat, and then this stuff goes flat over it, right? Yeah, and you lost like the separation of all these parts with the chest plate being the most forward thing, and now it's all just kind of like a flat dummy, right? And then I think, you know, this is kind of the right approach, and it just like the detailing that's, you know, that's a little bit stiff. Again, you know, you trust you gotta trust your this part, right? And then these are your bigger shapes, and then that stuff is the smaller shapes, right? So you would, you know, draw like this kind of knee pad, and then the fur would kind of like, you know, you can kind of like make it come out if you want that, right? But now the fur starts to be like the primary detail, and it's not what was working in your sketch, basically. And all these bags and stuff, it's not, you know, it doesn't look practical. You know, it's just I think it's a matter of, yeah, looking at some reference of like very packed military guys to see how they carry stuff, you know, if they're like, they need to haul all their gear, right? It just needs to make a little bit more sense of about where this stuff is attaching, and that's sort of it. You know, here it's better. This one is a lot better. With this one, see, this one has nice overlap, so it gives you a sense of depth, and then this one is super flat, basically, right? This character would also be much better if it's like a 3/4 view, so you could understand how that helmet works, right? Because if you got like a front face, and then everything becomes flat, basically, unless, you know, you get good at using like shading and stuff. But you could show off the, you know, the like this is pretty interesting, like the way you design the kind of leather stuff. But yeah, the connections, this kind of mechanical stuff needs to be like more tight, more based on actual things. You need to really see, you know, the hard surface aspect of it, like so sharp corners and stuff. Right, that just needs more work and needs more reference. So you can contrast the mechanical stuff with the more, you know, like the wrapped, like plasticky stuff. I mean, it would help you to do like robot studies and to be like super accurate with the line work. And, you know, keep in mind that the stuff I told you about, the, you know, the line weight. And that's it. Okay, and that's it for me. And that my sketch is done. The daily drawing. Thanks for watching. I gotta go. Have a pleasant evening, and I hope to see you next week. And now I can't stop. Okay, bye bye. Yeah, it's okay. They already removed it.